exploring knowing your context and your students. So the ACEL standards that we are going to be focusing on and that run parallel to our theme today is Standard 1, knowing the student and how they learn, and Standard 7, engaging professionally with colleagues, parents and carers, and the community. So first of all, thanks Caroline. We'd just like to make an acknowledgement of country. So we acknowledge the traditional owners of the country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to the land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. So our key theme that we'll run through today's session is how is equity understood through a focus of learner diversity. So we've created this key theme through our core readings and our recommended reading, which complements our core reading. So the core reading this week we had was chapter 5 from Churchill and Co.'s book, Teaching, Making a Difference. So learner diversity, pedagogy and educational equity. So this really talked about exploring equity in practice and how equity is kind of understood through a means of diversity and difference. And so really teaching for all students. And then our complementary reading was student physical education experience in a multi-ethnic class. So this really complemented our reading because it was an investigation on how students from multiple ethnicities kind of experience PE and how that is either positive or negative, and this concept of inclusion, exclusion, and tension rather than enrichment in the PE setting. So from our PID, we've got 2 sub-ideas that will be explored throughout our activities today. So sub-idea 1 is ways to engage with stakeholders and voice their perspectives regarding diverse learners and inequities they experience. So this directly links to Standard 7 in our ACEL standards. And we've got our sub-idea 2, exploring inclusion and exclusion amongst diverse learners and how this may impact on their learning and progress in a school context. So our first activity, we're going to have a buzz around the room, so a 2-minute brainstorm. So we've got 4 lots of words that have really been taken from our core reading. So we've got discrimination, deficit, inclusion and equity. So all our stationaries at the front, 2 minutes jumping up, writing as many things down at each point as we can. Off we go, 2 minutes jumping up, as much as we can about each word. 2 minutes to do it, let's go.
Oh, cheers.
Nice, so try and get around to all 4.
Traverse. Oh, I see. Just going to do some flavours.
So we're just buzzing around the room doing a quick brainstorm. Once the stationary done, grab a seat. Okay, a couple more minutes. Try and get us around to all of them.
I'm gonna move right past it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there.
Yeah, it's fine, just do the same. Marginalising.
Okay, 30 more seconds.
That's the one.
Great, so writing down our last thing and making our way back to our seats. Alright, so just sitting down. Beautiful. So we can see some great words there on each of our posters. So Miss Gray's just going to go through first. So for discrimination, so a few words.
Stigma, antisocial behaviour, exclusion, being unfair, you can't sit with us,
Marginalisation, isolation.
Beautiful. Okay, so that's just discrimination was a huge word that was kind of taken out from our core reading. Mr. Yim, what do we have for equity?
Level, equal chance to succeed, fairness, evening the odds, and opportunity.
Great. And what do we have for deficit?
Below expectation, lacking, disadvantaged, missing something, and help is needed.
Fabulous. And Mr. Yim?
Inclusion, positive effort finding, shared similarities, and belonging.
Beautiful. So these words are kind of the terminology that we took from both of our readings. So keeping in mind for both of our activities today, this kind of terminology will be played throughout our activities. Okay, so moving on to our first activity.
Yep, so our first activity is our QR code scenario. So I'm going to get Miss Gray or Miss Collins to give you a number, 1 to 3. In your groups, you're going to pick one person to download a QR code app on your phone, and you're going to just scan the QR code on the walls over there, and there. So first in, first serve. You're not going to know what your role is, like what your number represents. So first in, first serve. Find your QR code, and you'll know what you are.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
So we have group 1 over here, group 2 in the middle, and group 3 over there.
You don't need the app, by the way, if you go to your camera.
Yeah, so it's just you just get your camera up and you scan the QR code and it will pop up in a tab.
You group one? Yeah. Wait, do we have to scan it? No, I think one. Just one.
So group 1 over here, group 2 in the middle, and group 3 over to my right here.
So like my camera.
Yeah.
So it should come up like same. See, there you go. So it should come up like that. It's cool though. It'll recognise it and then you just click on the link and it'll take you to whatever the
So 10 more seconds and we'll just sit there and I'll explain what to do.
I had troubles.
Alright, listening up.
Group 1, just turn around for a second. So once you scan the QR code, you should have who you are, the stakeholder, and you have your the scenario and some prompts to answer. So just share it within your group, and then after that, I want you to group up with someone from group 2. Let's say you're group 1, group up with someone from group 2 and group 3, and discuss these prompts together for a few minutes. Got it?
Yep. Beautiful. So off you go.
So if anyone wants reference to the scenario, it's also up on the PowerPoint here.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're gonna have to go and see.
Can I take a photo?
Oh yeah, you can.
So one person from group 1 should group up with a member from group 2 and 3.
So become a group of 3, 1 teacher, 1 parent, and 1 student.
Just downloading a QR group 1.
Yeah, just one just looking down on Friday.
Does anyone need a number 1?
Yes.
I'm at number 3. I'm teacher. I am student. Okay. So we need, I'm assuming parent is the other one? Yeah. We need a 3.
Anyone need a 1?
No, wait, I'm a 3. Matthew, this is mine.
Is it week 5?
Yeah.
How's it going? Last week.
Alright, so.
Who needs a teacher?
Adapts to play sport. Feels pressure to be good at sport. Yeah, lack of language barrier makes it not which teachers work with dad. Her dad doesn't understand why she doesn't want to do teachers tell her she's not doing it. Her dad doesn't understand
Language barrier.
Yeah, oh yes.
Once they've found what it is, just a discussion. More ways of supporting plans, obviously. Student, probably the parent.
Hey, so we just got to
I'll be the
and then basically.
yeah, there's no discrimination. Like in the equity doesn't really fit.
There's a deficit
Alright, just listen up. We'll come to front for 2 seconds. So could all the teachers go back into their groups, students and parents go back into their own groups, and you're going to discuss how you would go about this after learning from the different perspectives of the stakeholders.
So can we take the students wherever you started off? Discuss your expert groups. Sorry, come through.
I feel like I should have done this the other way.
Yeah.
What were you guys? Teachers? So should you be in this group now?
Wait, hold the phone. It's just the 12. We're group 1.
No, that's just the description. In order, yeah. That's
So the parent wants me to be able to build more social relationships and work on
I was thinking the best way
and
overcome
not
this.
just relationships, but teachers as well. So environment, as a teacher or to work more on physical therapies, like mostly language barriers, and probably the easiest
Orange slices, whatever, and takes that extra step to be a part of not only
Yeah, well, let's say
assuming this will
Last 30 seconds.
develop that actual career. I think we just said it literally sounds like none of them.
Can everyone just bring it into the expert groups? So just sit down or standing if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to discuss as a class, what are some of the answers? So we'll start with group 1. Can you just say what You guys were the stakeholder?
We were the student.
Yeah, and what were some of the interesting things you guys discussed in regards to the scenario?
Well, we often went one of two ways. Some of them said that communication wasn't really there amongst the three parties, and so therefore they needed to sit down and have a bit more of a talk as to what actions could be taken. And the other side of it was a bit more considerate in the fact that they each want these three things, and surely they can find a way to have that work together, whether it be more active learning rather than to get around the language barrier, or more social inclusion and stuff like that.
Great. So what did you identify the inequity was for Brooke? So you touched on it before, perhaps a language barrier.
Yeah.
What else could kind of be the inequity that was present in the scenario? Anyone? So maybe the idea around Brooke's culture. So the kind of difference within sport and PE activities and the structure of a PE classroom, okay, versus what she is kind of used to in terms of what she's grown up with and what her culture and community kind of view as sport. Okay, so really kind of flipping the perspective on how Brooke kind of comes into a classroom that's structured, okay, versus how she kind of sees sport and how her dad can see sport. So we'll move on to parents.
Yeah, which group was there?
Beautiful. So what did you guys discuss?
Well, we all agree that positive action is definitely the only route, or one of the only routes that Brooke's father can take in the scenario. Recommending negative consequences all would not only deteriorate Brooke's relationship with the father, but Brooke's relationship with the teachers. So, at least what I thought would be a great way for Brooke's father to get involved is if he started taking, if he and Brooke started taking that step forward into the school sporting community. So joining a sports team that competes outside of school hours, run by school coaches and teachers, PE teachers. One of the things that Brooke's father would need to do would be to engage in that, drive the practice, provide orange slices for the team, help with the organisation of events, awards nights, all that kind of stuff. In PE classes, the kids who are most confident and the kids who excel are the ones who are playing sport 24/7. They understand how they work, they have a relationship with the teacher, and they have a good basic understanding of the sport they're learning. And what you see a lot of PE classes is one student will teach the rest of the class how to all run drills that the rest of the class goes through. And this gives Brooke a chance to take that step into that.
Great. And great point you made. With PE though, there's that concept with the parents thinking that PE is just sport orientated. Whereas like we're stepping outside that zone where it's PE now isn't just driven by sport, okay? It's not synonymous to sport. It's more so that kind of moving to learn and lifelong learning. So the dad's perception can kind of be, yep, it's just all sport orientated, where it's more so kind of the fundamental skills and other things that kind of drive sport within a PE curriculum rather than just sport games itself. Okay, so yeah, opening up that communication and kind of becoming immersed. Great. And the teacher?
We sort of spoke about how obviously, as you said before, like she's come from a culture where she has played sport, but in a different way. So we spoke about how obviously if she's lacking confidence in the sports that they're doing, maybe incorporating some Indigenous games every once in a while, even as a warm-up, to sort of build her confidence so she feels a little bit more confident in herself to then go and participate in the class. And we also spoke about just really simple things. We spoke about, obviously there's like a communication barrier there, but PE is like a really good forum for using like visual examples and demonstrating skills as opposed to just like explaining to the class and hope they know maybe more group work and things like that. So she's like more included and can visually see it without having to like sort of cognitively understand it.
Fantastic. So yeah, that linking that back to the whole concept of understanding our learners, okay, and teaching for all students, which is what we've already touched on. Okay, so that ASL standard was number 7, so really understanding all of the stakeholders that were involved. So fantastic, that's really good.
Yeah, so I guess our main takeaway from this activity is, as teachers, we can't perceive equity just from our point of view. You have to consider everyone else and what they want. Yeah, and we think that when you take into everyone's perspective, that equates to equity. Yeah. So I'm just passing on to Caroline for our final activity.
Cool. So our last activity is buckets. So I'll get everyone to sit down back into their seats, please. Okay, and before I explain what we're going to do, can I please get 5 volunteers? Yeah, pop up first slide. And if I could get you all standing below one of the 2 or 3 flags.
It's a bit low, sorry. I'll put it up a little bit.
We'll stand beside, shall we?
Stand beside, stand above, sorry.
Okay, so for this activity, as we can see, or soon to see, there are 5 labels that are placed above each of you. So for this scenario, you're a student at the school with this label. This is how you have been known as in your classroom. Why you have buckets and why there is a lot of water on this table is to show the burden these students may experience given a different scenario. So I have 6 scenarios here that I'm going to read out, and 5 people at a time are going to come up, grab a cup of water, and you're going to pour as much water into one person's bucket as you think this scenario, the burden that they would experience. So the more water, the greater burden they would experience in the scenario. Does anyone have any questions with that to start with? No?
Sorry, I do.
Yes.
How do you pick the 5 people who will come up at least?
We're just going to go.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah. So the first 5 of you, if you could come up and grab a cup of water, and I will read out the scenario.
Are you going to read the context for the school scenario?
Oh yes, I am.
Just 1 second, can you sit down? Because I haven't read the school's context, sorry.
Oh, Caroline.
Miss Green.
Don't worry, Miss Gray's on the ball. School context. Alice Nation College prides itself on fostering the next generation of athletes. This top-tiered school has state-of-the-art facilities that cater for only the most academically gifted students. With the median ATAR being 91, this school thrives in STEM-driven faculties and nurtures tomorrow's utmost respected men and women within today's society. So that's just a bit of context to what the school is like, because that might change your opinion. When you're pouring water in, try to think of examples that you might have experienced or justifications as to why you're pouring water, because I will ask a couple of you why you've chosen that amount. So I'll get the first 5 to come up.
So we have white jock, transgender, indigenous, disabled, and low SES, so low socioeconomic status.
Okay.
So does the whole cup of water only go into one bucket?
Yeah, so you guys will just choose one person to pour your water into, and as much as you like. So the first scenario is classroom banter. So choose one person, and you're going to place as much water you think the burden they'll receive from classroom banter. So choose one person each.
Sorry. Full cup.
Yep, so being really aware that you don't have to use the whole lot of your water if you
can
don't
choose.
think. You don't have to, but you can.
Or do we go?
So you don't think someone can
The more water shows the greater the burden for that individual.
You pull back a tiny bit of the drugs, you can
They'll only experience a bit of burden. That's fine. And pop your cup back on the table. Stack them.
Oh, yeah, you
Okay.
It's white drugs.
Alright. Ryan. Who did you choose to put water into?
White job.
White job. And how much water did you place in it?
I just did the whole thing.
The whole thing. And why do you think that might be the case?
Because it could be white job against white job, or it could be like someone from the others trying to drag down the person they view as the pinnacle of education.
So depending on the scenario.
Scenario, context. So I
Yeah,
don't know
context. So you've
yeah.
chosen your context, and that's why. Perfect. I will get the next 5 up. Okay, the next scenario is your change room experience before a PE class. So choose one individual.
Sorry.
Alright, I'll get you guys to sit down for me. And the next 5. So there's 4 of you guys. And Ryan, you're back up for round 2. Alright, scenario number 3. Being selected for a sporting team. Choose your individual.
Don't be sorry, that's the ladies.
So who's likely to be discriminated?
Yeah.
She said. It does.
Expensive one.
Okay, and we'll get the next 5 up. One more thing for you guys. 2 more.
Lauren, Jen, do you want to have another go?
Okay, and the last scenario that we're going to go through is group role playing in an English classroom. Beautiful, and I'll get you all to sit down. Okay, how do our buckets feel?
Fairly noticeable.
Fairly noticeable? Yep. Okay, so from what I can see, Alana, Alex, you all have a reasonably similar amount of water in your bucket. So the idea of this activity is to be able to see the physical weight and a visual representation of the amount of burden that labels can have on individuals, especially in a classroom context. So it's not to show which of these groups are more marginalised than the other, but rather to see that burden does exist, and these groups are often experience greater inequity. And by removing those labels and by focusing on their strengths and their abilities rather than where they're disadvantaged, this can create a safer learning environment and create a better context for school and learners to allow everyone to strive and to achieve their best outcomes for themselves.
Beautiful, great. Thanks, bucket holders. Holding them back. And our final pass-out activity, okay, just to wrap up our whole lesson. All right, so this is to be completed before we exit. So the question is, how does equity affect learners of differing diversities? So that was our overarching theme today, and we explored through both of our main activities, okay, how our stakeholders have a part to play, and how equity is actually brought out in practice, and how what we can do as teachers to 1, identify that inequity, and 2, kind of address it. Okay, so just filling out in either sentence form or dot points for me. Okay. Beautiful. If you don't have one, raise your hand. That's great. Thank you.
Oh, we can just choose. I'll do one.
Oh, yeah, share. This one.
Yeah, that's just there. Okay, awesome. Oh, yeah, I'm completing sentence form. Okay. So everything's on the slide.
About the back.
Amazing, sorry.
A little bit more fresh.
done that, I'll give you a little bit more time. If anyone would like to share their response or something that they've taken away from the lesson and how inequity can be addressed through diverse learners.
Just the whole idea that you really need to understand all your students in a classroom and sort of figure out, knowing that what makes one student succeed is going to work for everyone. So making sure that you're doing different activities and teaching in different ways to make sure that all learners are given equal opportunities to succeed.
Beautiful, great.
Do you take an intersectional approach in your teaching? Because some students already have an advantage before they even get to school, or some a disadvantage. So that could be socioeconomic status, background, anything. So you kind of need to be able to teach to all students, but also consider that there are so many different factors affecting everyone.
Excellent. So that idea of privilege. So coming in without not even our doing, okay? So that head start that some students get, okay? Being aware of that and what we can do. Okay, so just wrapping it all up, so just that draws back to our TPA, just a quick little mention of that. So knowing our students and how they learn and the context of that. So does everyone on a whole kind of have a better understanding on the concept of knowing our students in the context and how inequity kind of plays a role in that? Anyone like to elaborate on that going forward, completing the first section of the TPA?
What kind of questions would you be asking about?
Yeah, so kind of when you kind of have your school and what you're kind of breaking it down, when you want to answer that question, what are the type of things that you'll be looking to kind of feed out from the demographic of your school that you've been given? So what will you kind of be flagging after this session, but now that we have a bit more of an idea about equity?
I think you look at the suburb areas, so what kind of cultural backgrounds people who live in that suburb, or languages other than English, those kind of students who attend the school. So you know their background and what you're in for or what you need to teach to.
Fabulous. Great. That wraps it up. Thanks.
So how are you collecting feedback?
So we've got our rubrics. Do we give this to everyone or just our group member or everyone?
Give it to everyone.
Yeah. So we just got the rubric for the lesson plan and the actual lesson that's being conducted and areas to write. So you can highlight in terms of the actual outcomes, and then you can just write your own feedback.
Okay, so how do you think about when you're going to be presenting your own groups? How do you want to collect feedback? Do you want to give out paper slips like manuscript has, or do you want to electronically email to you? We're going to have 5 to 8 minutes now